All right, y'all can get started whenever you like.
Okay, cool. So, my name is Steven. From the Student Management Center, like I told you guys, I promise this will be so painless. You're gonna be like, wow, that guy was pretty cool. Like, I might have a question later on. I'm going to talk to him. So, at the Student Management Center, we're located in Chestnut Hall, and we also have an office in the Eagle Student Services Center on the bottom floor, just in case, like, when students have a problem with financial aid, they can go right there rather than having to make the trek over to, like, close to the rec center. So we do three main things for our students. We have a multitude of workshops, like treasure training is one of the ones that we include, but we also do things like dinner on a dime, buying your first house, planning your first wedding on a budget, and things like that. We also have coaching sessions, so you can come in and you can talk to us, and we can talk about anything: budgeting, debt management, credit management. You want to learn how to build your credit, exit loan counseling, insurance counseling, anything to do with money, you can come in and talk to us. And then we also have an emergency loan program. So if you get in a bind with anything, just come and talk to us. We'd like it if you come before it's too late, but even if it's too late, we'll try our best to help you out, you know what I mean? But today we're here for treasure trading, so hopefully by the end of today, we'll be able to have some of your basic questions answered. So we'll be able to identify the right banking option for you and your organization. We'll be able to identify a developed way for you to be able to keep track of your money, how to maintain restricted access to your funds, and how to manage organizational money stress-free. And then at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about transitioning, which I know that'll be coming probably later on. So in your organizations, do you transition? Do you go spring and fall, or do you fall and spring?
Fall and spring.
Fall and spring?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody. Okay, cool. So you guys will be transitioning out at the end of this semester, right?
Yeah.
So you guys already kind of know what you're doing, right?
We started in fall, so
Okay.
late fall.
Okay, so did you start in fall as well?
Not really, we're just starting the treasurer's position.
Okay.
We don't have anything set up, so.
Okay, well, cool. Well, hopefully I'll be able to help you. Now, anytime throughout the presentation, if you have any questions and things like that, make sure you ask them. It's only going to be so much that I can pull from my brain and from other people that I've helped train as far as treasurers that will be general knowledge. But if you have something specific to your organization, feel free to ask. So we just kind of start ethical banking. To me, I was the treasurer for my organization for 7 days before our vice president got kind of booted out of his position and needed somebody to go up to that one. So I kind of know a little bit about the actual treasurer position. But when I was in the position, I was just always asking myself, is this ethical? Is this ethical? Is this ethical? Am I doing what's right for the organization and not so much just me as a person? Sometimes it's not just going to be easy. For me, I'm going to have to go through a lot of trouble to make sure that everything for my organization is by the books and things. So I always make sure that it's never used for your personal expenses. Even if it's the one little time when you're well, I'll have the money, I can put it back tomorrow, just things like that. Just try to avoid it altogether. There should be no mixing of personal funds and organizational funds. Now, we'll talk about it a little bit, but if your organization has one debit card, and maybe you need 2 debit cards, that kind of goes into the whole reimbursement stage. You don't want to constantly have to reimburse your members, especially if you have a big enough organization to where you can have multiple cards. It's just kind of best to have those cards where you can directly see it come out of those bank accounts. And it's easier on your end when you get to the end, depending on the size of your organization, if you have to fill out a 990 form and things like that, it makes it really easy on you as a treasurer in getting all your data. And then so just also remember, organizational funds should not be used to purchase anything prohibited under your university, local, state, or federal laws. And I don't know why I left it out right here, but that should also be your organization, under your organization policies and things like that. Any questions so far about what ethical banking could be? Have you guys encountered any times in you guys' terms or that you foresee that you'll have to use super ethical reasoning?
I have a practical question.
Okay, go for it.
So we do not charge membership dues,
Mm-hmm.
but when we open a bank account, we are required to put in a starting money into that. So the way that we have done now is the president has put in the initial $100.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just put in the application today. So can those $100 be taken out of the account and put onto books, like reimbursed to the president? Is that ethical / legal?
It is legal. As far as like ethical wise, it is ethical in the sense that the president is pretty much helping the organization get started, especially since it's a new organization. Now if he's reimbursed like later on, that is very much ethical. But it would be a good practice maybe to have your members, I know you said you don't charge like membership dues, but like even if you say we're taking donations, to make sure that we have like the standing amount in the bank and things like that, just because you don't want your president to be the only one who's invested into the organization. You want everyone to feel like they're invested in the organization as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Okay, cool. And so then we kind of go into like your debit cards and like how you actually begin to pay for things. So the pros about debit cards, it's more convenient to use, of course. It makes it a lot faster to buy things because it's just like a swipe, but that can also be a con to a debit card. And then you can also make online payments. Do you guys use debit cards currently in your organizations, or do you typically stick to cash or checks, or?
We are in the process of finding a bank, and so I think we plan on having a debit card, just to pay for things like, any expenses that we might incur, but I think that's our only future with a debit card.
Okay, perfect. What about you guys?
Same.
Okay, now, we think that it is a very good practice to have like a variety of mediums that you can pay for things, like your debit card and of course like checks as well. It's gonna be some big expenses, and we'll talk about checks in a little bit, but it'll be some big expenses that you'll wanna be able to see that like paper trail. Let's say you guys have like you have formal events and things like that, you have to pay for like a big ballroom, it's $2,500. Yeah, it's good that you can always see that transaction on your bank account, but even with that check, you get that memo line, you have the date, the signature of the treasurer and the president. It makes you feel like just a little bit more comfortable. When something happens, you're like, this is A and B, like it adds up, you know what I mean? But as far as like debit cards, also just kind of keep in mind your usage fees will vary. And if you are in the process of looking for a bank, we do have like the wonderful Wells Fargo here. A ton of our student organizations bank with them, and we also have Chase right here off of Eagle Drive. So like those are like two really prominent financial institutions that's near us. They have very big expertise in dealing with student organizations. Okay. So then we kind of move on to, we move on. Okay, so just like the cons of like a debit card, it can be easy to overdraft, multiple cards, multiple problems. And earlier when I was talking about maybe like having one or two for your organization, you'll get into problems when you have like 3, 4, and 5. And it's like, how do I keep track of like all these cards? And then potential for misuse is unlimited. So just the more you have cards, the more you're kind of giving it out. It's going to be up to you guys and your organization's president, or even your organization like at all, to come up with like whatever type of spending boundaries are you going to have. Is the only person that's going to spend money the treasurer, or you're going to add the president to that, or if you have like committees and so on and so forth. Because you always want to make sure that you know who's going to be able to use that card, especially be careful when you give out the PIN number and things like that, especially when you have to sign things as well. And so then just like a couple pros about checks. They are harder to use if they're lost or stolen. It gives you a little bit more oversight in terms of like spending. It's usually kept with one individual and an instant copy of what funds were spent on. Now keep in mind, when you do go to these banks and you guys do open your bank accounts with them, ask for checks. Like at the very beginning, ask them if they're free. Most of the time if they're not free, they come in like a very minimal price, especially if you're like a new customer. But if you are a new customer, typically they are free. Any questions so far about debit cards or checks or anything? Okay. And so just a couple of things to watch out for checks. It can be less convenient for debit cards because if on the account, the signing holder is the treasurer or the president and you can get to them right away, then it's kind of hard to use a check if nobody can sign it. ID is often required to use a check, which is good, but also that can delay time on purchases and things. It may take longer to process. Remember, checks can take anywhere from 1 to 3 business days to process through your financial institution to another financial institution. and not all the time are they accepted everywhere. But also keep in mind, one of the good things about checks, the fact that it may take a little bit longer to process. When you buy things online, it's a lot more secure if you buy it through through an electronic check, which is still your bank account and things like that. All you need is your routing number and your account number, and it makes everything a little bit safer. Okay? Any questions about that? So pass and go, collect 200. So of you guys' position, just like a couple of things that you guys should already know will be your clear roles and responsibilities. So what do you, as treasurers, what do you think you guys is, like, what is your main goal?
Make sure the money is managed correctly.
Okay, yeah. What about you?
Keep a record of everything that I spent,
Okay. Keep it
and
right.
don't spend more.
And don't spend more, so save money too.
Make sure it's used responsibly.
There you go. See, so I gave you guys these little cool little light up keychains. So like as you're like on your financial journey through your organization, you can light the way, okay? I'm just kidding, that's kind of corny, I just kind of came up with that. But, so yes, it's all of that. You want to make sure that you're spending money according to your organization's policies. You want to make sure that you're saving money. You're going to be the person that says no a lot, or is like, I don't think we should do this. But that's okay, because if you're saying no, or you're saying, I don't think we should do that, that means you're having an organization best at heart, you know what I mean, and at mind. And then also, we want to make sure that it's used ethically and legally, okay? So, your organization budget, so you guys are the ones that kind of comes up with that, or you guys get to tweak it. So all of you guys are new organizations, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, have you guys ever seen an organization budget? Okay.
Yes.
You have?
Well, yes.
Okay.
I met with the president today, and we kind of went over how much our national dues are, how much we're gonna have chapter dues, and kind of decided how much each would be, not for nationals, but our chapter dues and what they would go to.
Okay, so it's honestly, guys, it's pretty easy. The easier it is for you to understand, the easier it is for you to go back and kind of give it to your members. But this is how our budget breaks down. It's really good practice for at least once a semester or once an academic year to kind of break down your budget to your members, just so they have an idea of okay, this is what I'm paying, or this is what I'm investing all my time into, and the money that we're receiving, we're putting it to get use. So speaking of that organizational budget, I'll go ahead and bring up one. We just kind of have a template, so if anything that I say you just don't understand, we can kind of go back and look at it, but also I have some instructions, and we got a budgeting template and also a tracking template, and I'll email this out to you guys at the very end as well. So on this budgeting template, just like you were saying, it's kind of saying how are you getting your money? Are you getting it through dues, fundraising, or do you have alumni just giving you guys money that you can kind of stay alive? And so you have your projected, your actual, and then how much the difference. And so this kind of gives you just different categories. The difference between your personal budget and your organizational budget is simply going to be categories and the amount of money that's in it. So you can kind of think of the organizational budget like your personal budget. You just know that you have a lot of kids, you have a lot of your kids are giving you a lot of money, so you can be able to provide for them. And so you can break it up into many categories like t-shirt savings, your meetings, conferences, and everything like that. And these are just templates right here. And the reason I didn't print it out and give it to you guys is because I want you guys to be able to take it and specify it to your certain organizations, okay? So you can kind of go in and take a look at here. And then it's always good to have things planned out well in advance before you have to spend it, if possible. By you encouraging your members to do that, or by you doing that yourself, you're saving yourself the risk of losing something along the lines. Let's say you failed to plan at the very beginning, or you're okay guys, just make sure you tell me you need to buy X, Y, and Z the day before, and then the day before you're just really stressed out, school is on top of you, personal life, and now you have org stuff to worry about, and just hand out that card and all this swiping, and then a week later you're oh my gosh, what happened? So we just kind of want to make sure that we plan ahead of time. So that's why we tried to build in the projected costs, and then you have your actual costs. And hopefully every time you'll have a positive number in this difference And that way, at night, you'll be able to sleep with a smile, okay? You'll know your organization's balance is in the clear. And so then when you're kind of tracking, and this goes up to about 15 weeks. Typically it's only 16 in the school year. So you can just kind of go through and have like a semesterly track of like what you're actually spending. Maybe at the very end, you have to like compile reports or whatever to give to your organization, to your president, to your national offices, then you have one place that you can kind of go to because you've just been kind of keeping track of it and just updating it as well. Any questions about a specific budget template or tracking template? Now keep in mind, you can go online and find other budget templates and things like that. Or like after I email you this, if you have a huge organization, in the office we have templates for Greek orgs, big orgs, medium orgs, and small orgs. Or even if you're like an org, such as by gentlemen in the middle, who said you don't require your members to pay dues. We do have non-membership dues budgets for you guys that we can send out to you.
And this is in the student management.
Yes. But I'll make sure I send that out to you, for sure. And so then we can kind of go back to this. Am I boring y'all yet? Okay, cool. And so then you have your bylaws and procedures. Now it's really important that you guys, the reason we put this on here is because it's really important that you guys are very much a part of the decision making in your organizations. All the time you'll hear people say money make the world go round, but in all actuality, it kind of does. You know what I mean? So when people are making like simple rules, like if you don't come to this, then we fine you for X, Y, and Z, or we're going to spend money on X, Y, and Z, or our focus is on community service, but you find yourself spending a lot of money on social events for your organization. So it's just really important for you guys to be a part of that conversation. And then when it gets to training and transitioning plans, it's really important that you guys adequately go over things with the person that's going to come into your office. You don't want them to kind of come in, so you guys are like the new treasurers. You don't want someone else to come in the same seat you're in, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, we have all this money, how do I keep track of it, you know what I mean? You want to be able to be that person that's like, this is what you do, if you have any questions, let me know. And so, just like simple things about like budgeting, so if you have expected income, so 15 unpaid dues, so 15 times 10, you have that $150. So let's say you have to spend $150 and then your total balance is $200. You can kind of break this up into your individual officer budgets. So when you do your budgets, instead of having big categories such as food and things like that, you can, let's say your organization has multiple tiers. So you have a treasury budget, your secretary have a budget, your vice president have a budget, so on and so forth. And it just makes it a little bit easier for you guys to track as well. And then just some different budgeting ideas that you guys can use. You can use mint.com. They do have a business side. And it's just like a budgeting app that you guys can use for your organization. Or if you have Wells Fargo, if you have a business account as well, they also have a business budgeting app as well. So those are just like a few little ideas that you guys can use. And so this is just like kind of showing you the different stages that you should look at, or like important parts that you should look at as you're going through your budget. So when you're kind of getting started, making sure you're taking note of like how much you have in your savings account. Or even if you don't have a savings account. If you do have a savings account, just kind of make sure you're like watching that. And it's good practice to always increase that savings account unless you just have to dig into it, you know what I mean? And so as far as like your income, how are you gonna get it? If it's gonna come from dues, fundraising, if your alumni is gonna give it to you, or even if you have, let's say you're a community-based organization, you have people in the community giving to you. And then your expenses, just kind of check them off as they kind of come around, but make sure you're planning them in advance. Like as your social arms of your organization, or as like your philanthropic arms of your organization are doing things, make sure you're a part of that planning process so you can adequately check off your expenses. And just remember your fundraising and things like that. And then one of the big parts that we often see that students kind of forget about is when they have to go to like the national or regional conferences and things like that. And they're like, oh man, we had like our operating budget, we were good, but we forgot about this and we need like $7,000 to go to that. your national offices, or even like if you talk to Callie in the office, she'll be able to tell you about probably some things that you'll have to spend big money on, like if you go to a conference and things like that. So just something that you can kind of plan for, and just making sure that you're tracking throughout the whole semester. And so, as the treasurer, it's always kind of assumed that like you're the person that who's in charge of fundraising as well. And if you want to come to our fundraising workshop, we're going to have a fundraising 101 workshop, and that's going to be Thursday, next Thursday?
Correct, at 12:30.
Next Thursday at 12:30. And what was that room?
Let's see, let me look it up quick. Matthews.
Okay, so Cal's going to look up that room for you guys just in case you guys want to attend that. But just like some, just scratching the surface fundraising thoughts, make sure you define the need and the amount to be raised. You never want to go into a fundraising saying, we just want to raise money. Because if you have no goal, you can kind of lose motivation and things like that. Make sure you do the math. How much is it going to cost to kind of set up the fundraiser, especially when you're kind of thinking about how much you want to give back. Make sure you include your members' time when you're doing your fundraising. You don't want to always have just one member out there doing the whole thing. Make sure you maintain a positive image for your organization, and make sure you review the UNT. Sorry, we did this a couple weeks ago for UNT Dallas. So this is UNTD, but make sure you review the policy for UNT's fundraising guidelines, and always fundraise according to your mission. Now keep in mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, Callie, but part of the policy here at UNT is you cannot fundraise with baked goods, and you cannot do raffles. So there's a couple things to kind of keep in mind, okay? So no baked goods and no raffles. We want to make sure you guys are like healthy and safe and all that jazz, you know? Any question? Oh, do you have a question?
That comes as a news because I see several organizations doing a bake sale.
Mm-hmm.
Is that against the policy?
It just can't be home-baked goods. So like, it can be baked if it came from,
Like Kroger or something like that?
yes.
Okay.
It just can't be something that they personally made themselves. And we'll talk more about that next week at our sold workshop, and it's gonna be in Matthews 108
Okay.
at 12:30.
So Matthews 108, 12:30. Any other questions so far? And just a couple keys to making sure that you have financial stakes in your roles. Make sure you use internal controls. Make sure you try to require the signature of at least 2 of your officers. Even if that's a clause that's saying that one of those have to be you and your president, or you, your president, and your vice president, something like that. Make sure you try to only get 1 debit card, but if your organization is bigger and you need that flexibility, it is okay to get 2. But make sure you come up with a formal process, and make sure that process is outlined in your organization's bylaws, just so you can have a track of like how you're going to do things. And then also maintain current files of your organization's finances. So when I say maintain current files of your organization's finances, I don't mean like do it once a semester, but probably every week or every other week you should probably be opening whatever documents that you have and kind of updating them. Just in case something bad happens to you, like I hope that nothing bad does happen to you guys, but just in case something does like that happen, you'll have someone else that can kind of pick up where you kind of left off. Make sure you consider creating a prior approval purchasing form for your organization. So that kind of goes back to what I was talking about the planning before. Also, that kind of helps you as treasurer help your members in your organization to plan a little bit better, and in turn you'll be able to give them like really good like event planning skills. And then also, cash and checks should be deposited within 24 hours of receiving. No matter what, you never want to just have like sums of money just kind of like laying around, waiting to be deposited and things like that. If you can, take it the very next day, if not day of. Any questions? And then I just have like a couple of tips for you guys. I know this whole presentation has kind of been like a lot of tips, I guess. But receipts should be given away, given for any money collected by the organization. So if you don't have a receipt book, all you guys know what a receipt book is, right? So if you don't have one, go ahead and go and get one, and just make sure you kind of keep all those receipts. It'll cover you at the very end. It'll cover your organization. It'll also cover the person you're paying money to. A required prior purchase approval form. Remember, financial obligations should be paid promptly, typically at the beginning of each term. Good financial records, including in detail your organization's banking procedures, and it's really good practice to kind of have that in your bylaws or like your constitution and things of your organization. And make sure you regularly report financial records to your leadership. If you have any specific questions, you do have to be a registered organization here at UNT, you have to have an advisor. So always check with that advisor, and even if the advisor doesn't know what to do, she can contact us at the Money Management Center, or you can contact Callie over at the Student Board office, and we can adequately help you as well. And so very last thing, when you're starting to transition, just try to have it like a little bit prior to when you're actually going to leave. That way that person can kind of like go behind you and see what actually you're doing, rather than just reading all of the notes that you kind of have. Make sure you have the handbook. Financial records should be up to date. You never want to give someone more work than they should have. Make sure you're checking out the signatory authorities on the accounts and make sure they're changed. If you can, have them changed within about two weeks after elections and things like that. And also remember, another officer should conduct and sign off on the audit of the organization's financial statements. And so even if you like need to go to like our legal student services center, if you need to come in to like Student Money Management Center for someone to like look over your budget, it's just really good practice, especially to your national organization, to the university, that you have someone externally or another member in your organization other than the treasurer itself to look at your records. Okay? So any other questions that I can answer for you guys about your specific treasury needs?
How do I register my organization as a non-profit?
How do you register it as nonprofit?
You can do that through the IRS. You
Okay.
can attempt to do that. I will let you know it's a pretty tricky process. Do you have a national office at all?
No, we're
Okay.
not affiliate with any national or
Okay,
state
so
chapter.
I'll let you know it's a pretty lengthy and could be spendy process. So my suggestion is, are you wanting to just kind of get that status so you can get donations from businesses and things like that?
Yeah.
So what we can provide you is a letter from Student Activities just saying that you're a registered student organization with us here at UNT, and that you're not operating for, like
For
an individual profit. And you can take that to those businesses, and a lot of times they will use that to then write off those donations.
And we are starting now, so this might be a very basic question. Because we are dealing with student grants that event fund grants and donations, and we're operating a bank account.
Yes.
Are we required to file taxes?
If you are bringing in more than $5,000 annually, then yes, you should pay federal income tax.
Okay.
I would make sure that, are some of those things department things, or are they like just specific to your organization? Like the
Just
grants and
specific to
things?
the organization.
Okay, yes, so definitely if you're bringing in over $5,000, you'll need to look into paying
Tax.
federal tax, yeah.
I'm not necessarily paying, but should I be filing anything with IRS? Or tell them that, hey, I'm dealing with this money and this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, if it's over that,
Okay.
if it's that a large lump sum of money, then yes, I would definitely make sure that you are doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions you guys have? Yeah.
You said you're recording this. Is there any way I could like see this again if I needed to?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so what we do is we record all our sold workshops, and then I'll get this PowerPoint presentation from Steven, and then we'll kind of have our video guy in our office. He'll mesh it all together, and then we put them on the Student Activities YouTube channel, or YouTube page, whatever you call it.
Cool.
And so I know the one we did one in the fall as well. That one's already up there, but we'll update with this new one for the spring in the next couple weeks. So if you want to look at something sooner than that, the fall one is pretty similar, just a different speaker.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions I can answer for you guys? Okay. Well, cool. Just always remember, we are one of your biggest supporters over in the Student Aid Management Center. So if there's anything that we can do for you guys, or your organization's members, financially, or if you just need to come in and talk to us, we're located in Chestnut Hall, Suite 303. That's our main office, and we also have an office in the Eagle Student Services Center on the bottom floor. But there's our phone number, and there's our website if you need to jot it down. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I was expecting more people to come, so